Which team had the best front seven in the NFL during the 2018 season? Let's break it down. I'm Steve Palazzolo. This is Mike Renner. And here we have our top 32 front sevens. We're including all defensive linemen, all linebackers. So this one's tough to sort out, Mike. We have the full breakdown over at ProFootballFocus.com, but let's take a look at the list. Philadelphia Eagles sitting there at number one. I'm assuming on the strength of their defensive line a little bit more than their linebackers.
Yeah, definitely their defensive line. Ranking these front sevens, we basically had to take into account what the analytics said was more valuable. So pass rush, coverage, going to be more valuable in these rankings than run stopping. But Eagles, the pass rushing, they got it in spades still. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, incredibly took it to another level this season. 96 pressures. That was 17 more than anyone else not named Aaron Donald, which from an interior position, he was doing things we've never seen from the interior position by anyone not named Aaron Donald. So if Aaron Donald didn't exist,
a whole different scale.
We talk about Cox the same way we talk about Donald. He was amazing this year.
Yeah, the Eagles just have that incredible depth on the defensive line, and they get pressure with their front four better than anyone. Number two, despite what felt like a step back this year, the Jacksonville Jaguars, but still extremely talented up front, and Calais Campbell, one of the best run defending edge in the entire NFL.
Yeah, Calais Campbell didn't take much of a step back at all. Some guys did there up front, but Calais Campbell was great. Again, the biggest thing, though, was they just didn't have a lot of obvious passing situations.
Right.
They were playing from behind all game, so they're in run defense all the second half. Nowhere near as many pass rushing snaps from those guys, but Yannick Ngakoue, Malik Jackson, both over 50 pressures, along with Calais Campbell, so they could bring it at you from all areas.
Number three, coming into the season, I was fascinated by this because on paper it was literally Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh and then no one else. And we said, okay, does it matter? And this year it was Aaron Donald, a little bit of Suh, and not much else, but Donald's carrying this ranking.
That's how special Aaron Donald is. The fact that he's carrying, like you mentioned, a sort of jaggy front seven all the way to the number three overall
Just a guy,
ranking.
a bunch of guys
up there. Ndamukong Suh, still good. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but he did take a step back from his dominant self in years past. But I will also mention Corey Littleton. He was a all-pro special teamer, also had a fairly good year at linebacker for them as well.
You can see all of Donald's numbers over at ProFootballFocus.com with your premium stats because it was the best grade we've ever given any interior defensive lineman. It took his greatness and made it even better. Most pressures in the league by far. Again, Fletcher Cox would be awesome if Aaron Donald wasn't, stealing the spotlight.
One of my favorite stats for Aaron Donald was the 7th best interior defender this year had 53 pressures. So if you had 53 pressures, you're an elite interior defender. Aaron Donald had twice that many.
106 is my math. All right, great. Houston Texans, I think coming into the season, we talked about their secondary ranking was higher than we expected. This was not unexpected, but we needed J.J. Watt to come back. We thought we needed Whitney Mercilus to come back, but really J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, one of the best edge duos in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think it speaks to how dominant Watt was in his prime, that he can suffer a horrific knee injury, terrible back injury in back-to-back seasons, and still be our all-pro edge defender in the NFL. He basically carried him to this ranking. Jadeveon Clowney, very good in his own right, but more of a run defender still at this point than a pass rusher. Bernard McKinney had a better year as well at linebacker.
Yeah, I forgot about those linebackers. They're included in this too, but the defensive linemen certainly carrying it, just like with the Chicago Bears. We all know about Khalil Mack, but Akeem Hicks, he had a career year. We're talking about Fletcher Cox and Aaron Donald overshadowing, but Akeem Hicks would be up in that conversation too if those guys weren't around.
Yeah, Akeem Hicks and Eddie Goldman there on the interior, best run-stuffing duo in the NFL this past season. And then Khalil Mack, he changes the game with when he's on the field, how much offenses basically have to game plan around him, and you saw that all season long. Offenses, changing their whole game plan to account for him. And like you mentioned, Akeem Hicks, fantastic there on the inside. Roquan Smith, a fairly good rookie season as well.
And Khalil Mack's grade took a slight hit due to injury in the middle of the season because we're sticking with pure production, but we know when he's healthy, a dominant player. Any other teams here surprise you? Before we get to the Oakland Raiders in the bottom half of the list, any teams either surprise you or stand out that need some mention here?
I think the Los Angeles Chargers, just because they were up here a season ago with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa. Now, Bosa was hurt most of the year. When I think they both are healthy, they are, again, a top 10 unit. But both of them sort of had down years even when they did play. Both grades took a big step back. So at 15, you expected them to be a little higher this year.
Yeah, Bosa and Ingram with the highest, the most pressures of any duo in 2017. So yeah, even with the injury when they were on the field, a slight step back there. Let's go to the bottom ends. The Oakland Raiders there at 32. And honestly, this should be a major gap here between
Yeah,
31
it's like
and 32.
31, Alabama, Clemson, and then the Raiders.
Oh,
there.
man. Don't go there, Mike. Don't go there.
It was bad in Oakland. I mean, you don't need us to tell you it was bad. You have traditional stats like the 11 sacks in the entire season to tell you it was bad. It was bad.
PFF grade was far lower in just a
Yes.
different region from the next closest. The Detroit Lions, I find them interesting because from a run-stopping standpoint, they're looking fantastic. They've got a great year from rookie Deshaun Hands. They traded for Big Snacks Damon Harrison. You've got A'Shaun Robinson, who continues to progress. But these are all run defenders. If it's 2005 or 1995, maybe, you know, you've got a good defensive front, but they can't rush the passer efficiently.
Yeah, only Deshaun Hand in that defensive line had a pass rushing grade above 70. Other thing to note there, Jared Davis did not have a very good second year whatsoever there at linebacker, their former first-round pick. The one I'm interested in, though, is 30, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Because they added Jason Pierre-Paul over the course of the offseason. They added Vinny Curry over the course of the offseason. They added Vita Vea over the course of the offseason. All paid, big money for those first two, first-round pick for the last one, thinking they were down here a season ago, they'd be a lot higher this year. Did not work out that way. Curry, Jason Pierre-Paul, lowest grades of their career. Now, Vita Vea came out at the end of the season, but struggled for the most half. So, 30th ranking, that needs to be better in the future.
Yeah, the offseason narrative was, hey, this is the most improved defensive front. They put a ton of resources toward it, so that's very disappointing that they are sitting there at 30. I want to say the Cincinnati Bengals, too, as far as what happened before the season. Carl Lawson gets hurt before the year, and they looked like they had the deepest group of edge defenders coming into the year, plus Geno Atkins in the middle, and they just didn't get after the quarterback like they had.
Yeah, there was hope for them to be in this region here, but 25th. A lot of that also fell on linebacking core. That was the worst linebacking core in the NFL. They gave up almost 300 more yards in their coverage than any other linebacking core in the NFL. So a lot of that issue there, and Geno Atkins, he can only do so much. So that was the Bengals 25th this year.
Yeah, the Bengals gave up a lot through the air, and they were pretty high in our secondary rankings. If you guys check out that video. And they're this low in part because of those linebackers, as you mentioned. So there you have it. It's the PFF Top 32 Front Sevens from the 2018 season. The full list and breakdowns over at ProFootballFocus.com. And be sure to let us know in the comments what you think of the entire list.